right. Good afternoon. Thank you, sir. And thank you all for joining us at the Radiodays AI Summit. It seems that the room is getting almost full, so thank you so much for attending. My name is Olli Junes. I'm host of this summit, and we will dive into this hot and important topic through insights and case studies. Our aim is to open the whole ecosystem of AI and audio and radio. And when I started to plan this session last fall, I wasn't sure what we should focus on, what would be the main topics, the hottest topics. And that is, of course, because this whole AI thing is evolving so fast. This thing might be very different in a few months forward. And I guess now we have the insight of what's going on at the moment with the AI, and we have top experts here to enlighten us about this topic. We have 11 speakers from around the world, from public radio, commercial radio, and from tech companies who are working at the front line of AI and media. This summit will be 4 hours long, and we will have 2 15-minute breaks. And one more thing, usually this kind of summits start with keynote, but our keynote speaker is driving fast as he can from the airport. He was in Stockholm a few hours ago. Not his fault. You know, the European air traffic is sometimes very interesting, and his plane was late. But he will be here. The program will be the same, but the order will be a little different. So Olle Zachrison, our keynote speaker, will be our 4th speaker. Not the usual way, but you know, fast moves look always good. So, our first speakers will be Uli Köppen, Head of AI plus Automation Lab, co-lead BR Data, and Max Brandl, Product Design at AI plus Automation Lab. In BR, they have loads of AI projects going on, and we will hear about their work to pinpoint opportunities and potential risks also. And as a public service operator, they are also finding ways to fulfill their mandate with AI. We will hear an overview of their AI projects, and they'll give us a deeper look into Remix Regional, which is one of the current interesting projects. So please, welcome our first speakers, Ulrich and Max.
Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to kick this summit off by chance. My name is Uli. It's a little similar to Olle, but we had the pleasure to bike here and not to take the plane, which is why we are here right now. We are here to take a look at the current and at the future landscape at Bavarian Broadcasting and how we are using AI and automation. We are looking into the how and why, so the strategy behind AI in our newsroom. And we brought a very interesting prototype. My colleague Max will give you a deep dive. But first of all, those are the stellar teams we are so happy to work with. It's our data team, it's our investigative team, and our AI and automation lab we've built more than 4 years ago. And this is a very unusual combination in the media landscape because it's between product and content, and it's completely interdisciplinary. What we are having in common, if this lets me click, yes. What we are having in common is we're using automation for journalism, we're using it for investigative journalism, and we're using it for product, the automated formats part in our presentation. Of course, the focus today will be on product, but let me take you by the hand and give you a short glimpse into what we are doing in our investigative part. We specialized in algorithmic accountability reporting, which is reporting on AI and algorithms, also using algorithms to do so. We did a lot of stories on platforms such as Facebook and TikTok. We did stories on our credit scoring algorithm here in Germany called Schufa. And we did a lot of stories on software. For example, here on the above right side, you can see a story on AI recruiting. And this is a firm that promises to help HR people to do the right decision and to extract personality traits out of videos. So the applicants are sitting in front of their camera, are talking for 30 seconds, and the algorithm promises to extract a personality trait of this person. And what we are doing in our team is we are putting together interdisciplinary teams from programming over journalism to product, and we are setting up experiments, statistical experiments. In this case, we looked into this algorithm, and we could show that as soon as you put on glasses or you change your outfit, the output of this algorithm is different, and of course, my personality shouldn't change if I put on glasses. So this kind of reporting is what we are doing, and we think this is very important. We always try to share the instruments we are building and the knowledge we are building, and we just published a white paper on that. If you're interested, you can Google it, black box reporting, and look into it. But now let's jump to the product part, the automated formats. We've brought some examples. And as I promised, we've also brought a look into strategy. This is the reason why we're taking technology serious and why we're using technology. We have published a framework called data-driven publishing. And this is for taking a step back and looking at technology and see why we're using it. We're using it for user-centric journalism to really center to our users, and we're using it as a driver for digitalization. And we'll show you how we're approaching that. Personalization is, and here we love to quote David Caswell, who was head of product at BBC, a structural necessity for universal public access. And when we built our AI and automation lab 4 years ago, we had to focus on a certain part of the news cycle. And personalization is a very interesting field for us because this really helps us to approach our users. And we, as public service broadcaster, we are doing journalism for everyone. And of course, this is a very difficult thing to do, as we are all used to tailored news streams that is tailored to our interests. And the users are approaching us with the same expectation. Of course, we don't want to personalize like the Amazons and Facebooks in this world. We want to personalize in a public service way. And we have condensed 2 different versions of public service personalization. The first one is versioning, and the second one is regionalization. And both ways to personalize really fit to our USP as public service broadcaster. Versioning is the idea to get news according to user needs, meaning short, long, visual audio. And of course, this is something we have always done as public service broadcaster because we always had radio, we had TV, and we had text. But now we can use algorithms to really support our newsroom to produce those versions because we want the newsroom to focus on stories and on the stories behind stories, but not really on producing the versions. This is one tool we produced way ago. This was already before ChatGPT was on the market. This is a summarizer. You paste in a longer text and you get out a shorter version of that, in this case for our video text. Now with the large language models out, we are using those language models for text services for our newsroom, and this really helps our newsroom to produce those versions and to spend less resources on that. The second way to personalize is regionalization. And also this is our USP as public service broadcaster because we do have a very strong and dense net of correspondence in the region. We report from the region and those people really do the groundwork, speak to people. We want to support their work with algorithms And we are doing that, for example, with a new form of distribution. And now I'm handing over to my colleague Max, and he will give you a deep dive into Remix Regional, which is audio at core.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Uli. Hi and welcome everyone. My name's Max and I'm the product lead for this project called Remix Regional, and I want to give you a short overview about the idea and the concept behind it and also show you a small demo. So about 2 years ago, in the course of a hackathon, we came up with the question, how can we make our regional news on radio even better than they are at the moment? And to give you a better understanding of what I mean by that is, at the moment we are sending out about 2-minute-long regional news already on linear radio for 5 separate regions in Bavaria every hour. So Swabia, for example, gets other regional news than Franconia, which gets other news than Upper Bavaria. And we thought, how can we make this even more granular and more personalized for our audience? And we came up with the idea of building a quote-unquote machine which would be able to do 2 things basically. So the first thing would be to separate these news broadcasts into smaller audio pieces. And what I mean by that is that it should recognize the single news items that are contained in those longer broadcasts. Let's say there's a new mayor in a village and a sports event in another town and a car crash somewhere on a street, and recognize those small bits and cut the longer audios into small audio files containing 1 news item each. And the second thing that this machine, quote unquote, should do is, show my next slide, yeah, to extract the information about where the news is about. So add this geolocation as a metadata to the small audio files. And you end up with a kind of data package then, and with that data package you would be able to build products like, let's say, an Alexa skill that reacts to a prompt like, hey Alexa, give me my news for my village and 20 kilometers around. Or you would be able to build something like we did in our case. It's not an Alexa skill, but a more visual approach. It's a website that we built that does exactly that. And I brought you a small pre-recorded demo of it. I will play in a second. I want to add 2 more things before. First thing is, this is still our prototype that I showed to you. It's from last year. We are currently in the course of building this technology into our real radio products in a much better quality. And the second thing that I beg you to keep in mind is that this is just the thing that you see up here is just 10% of the whole project. It's just the tip of the iceberg, or the last 10%, because the way more interesting part is the back-end technology behind it, segmentation and extraction of metadata. But let's have a look. I hope this works well.
So you have 2 options on the starting page. You can use your current location, which I won't do at the moment because I'm in Munich, and this would produce a lot of news from Munich only. So let's take the second option, and I will enter a name of a small village called Eichstätt. And I will take this as an example because it's perfectly located at the border of 3 of those regions that I mentioned earlier. So in the next screen, you are put to Eichstätt, which would be in the center of the screen, and you get presented with a radius put around you, which is at the moment 36 kilometers. And this is so big because the system tries to give you always at least 2 news items. You can increase or decrease this radius to, let's say, 46 kilometers, then you would be getting 5 news items. And you can also increase the age of the news that you want to get. So if you put it higher, of course, the map fills with more news items. In my case, I will put it back to 2 days. I think that's fine. Then I get 5 news items from a radius of 46 kilometers. And the next click that you have to do is create my regional update. And this is the whole setup. You have to do this just once. And every time you come back to this website, you get presented with the news screen, which looks like this. And you can always press play and get the latest news from your region and the desired age. So let's press play and maybe skip 1 or 2 times.
Hier ist Ihr BR Regional Update.
Der Autozulieferer Continental spricht heute mit dem Gesamtbetriebsrat über den geplanten Stellenabbau. Beteiligt sind alle Betriebsräte der deutschen Standorte, zum Beispiel in Oberbayern.
Senkrecht starten und dann elektrisch und vollautomatisch von... Für die Tiefbaufirma Bauer AG arbeiten 12.000 Menschen weltweit. Sein Areal im Kreis Neuburg.
So you saw that we are moving on the map, always to the location the news is about, but you don't need to look at the screen all the time. Of course, you can also maybe use that whole application on your mobile phone, put it in your pocket and listen to your regional news briefing while riding your bike to work, for example, and you don't have to look at the screen.
So that is what Remix Regional is all about. Please keep in mind it's still a prototype, which may have some flaws here and there, but as I mentioned, we already work on the next version of it right now. And more important, please keep in mind that this is just one idea that we build from A to Z to show what's possible if you put segmentation and extraction of metadata to audio. So this is just one of maybe 100 ideas we could have built. And think of what you can do with your audio if you segment for things like chapters or any logical unit you can think of in your audio. And if you extract other metadata than just geo information, let's say you extract names or genres or something like colors, for example. So there's a lot of possibilities if you combine those two, and this is one possible product. Yeah, you can try that. Maybe you want to shoot that QR code or go there via brde/regionalupdate. That's the URL. You can use this prototype. Please keep in mind it's just working for Bavaria at the moment, but we are working on expanding that to the whole German area. Yeah, and I hope you find this useful in some way. And with that being said, back to you, Uli.
As Max mentioned, the idea behind is what we're really interested in. Of course, this is a very, interesting product. We get very good user feedback, but what we're building up is a completely flexible system. We are building up a new metadata system. We are building up new hybrid workflows with the newsroom. And this little cloud here you can see is the insurance for us, that we can personalize audio down the road how we want. And I'm sure now we don't know how we want to personalize in 2 years. We can use it for our own platforms. We can use it platform agnostic for other platforms. And as Max said, there are other product ideas in the pipeline, such as topic podcasts, which will help us to cover urgent news stories all over our radio streams. This is the kind of project or product we love to think of as a Trojan unicorn, because this unicorn carries in its belly a bigger challenge for us. It's not only this very product or project, it's a bigger challenge that we're tackling with that, in this case, metadata and workflows, and all the cultural and technological change we need. And data-driven publishing, the framework you can also Google if you want to, tells us that we should focus on products that help us to tackle such a bigger challenge. And as I said, we are using AI products as a vector to get more digital and to think more digital as a broadcaster. And this, in my point of view, is the beauty of AI and AI products. AI is just one tool for us, but as AI needs so many things like data, APIs, pipelines, workflows, it really helps us to get more digital and do the homework we perhaps haven't done for the last 10 years. That was the current landscape and the things we're tackling right now at Bavarian Broadcasting. Let's take a deep breath and let's look at the future, what is coming up in the next year or so. This clicker doesn't work. Okay. We are building up a new policy structure. We were one of the first broadcasters publishing their guidelines in 2020. It's our AI guidelines, and they have really helped us to have guardrails using AI. Now we are bringing up a second version, and we are condensing our learnings into those guidelines. One of the most important learnings was that we also need internal guidelines, because we had a lot of calls during the rise of ChatGPT and Midjourney by newsrooms calling us, asking, can we use this tool? Can we do this use case? And of course, this doesn't scale. We are a small team, and we can't answer all the questions by all the newsrooms in the whole broadcasting system from German public broadcasting. This is why we did an internal handbook together with our legal department It's 10 questions, and those questions should empower the newsrooms to do this decision themselves. If they can use a certain tool, if they can do a certain use case, and if it works out, then the newsrooms themselves can make this decision. You can also see those beautiful people on the slide. Fritz is there as well. He's one of our AI experts, and we are bringing together since 5 years the AI experts from all the different fields, from product, from legal, from editorial, from tech, and we are sitting together in an exchange. We are prioritizing ourselves in a non-hierarchical way, and now we are talking also ethics, because we want to have the people who make their hands dirty with AI and AI use cases to really make the decision and to help newsrooms to do this decision. So if newsrooms don't feel unable to do a decision, or if it's such an edge case, then this board comes into place, helping newsrooms to do the decision if we can do a certain use case or not. Our CEO still has to sign this package off, so this is very fresh. You're the first ones to hear about it. But this will be the backbone how we are tackling AI in the future at Bavarian Broadcasting. What is also new, we are combining our bottom-up process with a top-down process. As you can tell, we are coming out of a bottom-up process. This is what you always want in the digital world, that you're having core teams working interdisciplinarily within your own broadcaster and building up a certain technology or a certain mindset. This is what we had in our broadcaster, but at a certain point, you're hitting a glass ceiling. If you need resources from other teams, if you need long-term decisions, such as data storage, APIs, things that are costing a lot of money, you, of course, need our CEO. And for that, I would say we even had a third product in our team, which I would call strategy, because we tried to condense what we learned out of our prototypes into strategy for the senior management. And now we are really building up structure to getting this technology in a prioritized, in a structured way within our own broadcaster. I'll let you know how this works, because this is at the beginning right now. What we are also doing is we are building up a network. And networking is one of the most important things now you can do in this very holistic field of AI. We kicked off a network called AI for Media, which is a network for scientists and for journalists coming together, working on machine learning use cases together. It turned out to be good, because it turned out that we are also tackling the same questions, using the same methods, and we hope that this network will be helpful. We are working on a meetup that will be in person and also digital, that we can combine a lot of people who are not able to come to Munich. And we are working on a hackathon. So please go to the website if you're interested, or hit us. We are still here. We are very happy to have you in this network. We also promised to condense our learnings in this presentation we had so far in this journey using AI and automation at Bavarian Broadcasting. What I only can, advertise is to celebrate off-grid projects. This very project Max has presented was for a very long time under the radar, because we had to see if we can tackle technology, if we can get the team together, if users are even interested in this kind of product. So having this safe space of core teams working in an innovation space is really important, because failing is part of the game. I can also recommend to use AI to get more digital, because at public broadcasting, we are using legacy systems, we are using legacy teams, we sometimes always also have a legacy mindset we have to overcome. So using those products to digitalize our own work is really helpful. And as we've learned so far, we need bottom-up and top-down combined to really tackle this very holistic area of AI. Thank you so much. We are still here if you have any questions, and now Olle is here and can give his keynote. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ulrike and Max, and our keynote speaker has arrived here. He will be talking at 1 o'clock. Welcome, Olle Zachrison. Great to have you here. It was quite a flight. A lot of going on in BR at the moment, and a lot is going on in cyber company at the moment too. I tried to make some. I tried to dive deep into their methods of making, but now it seems that you guys are moving already forward. You are further in the future at the moment. So please welcome Mr. Hermann Campo from Cyber.
Hello guys. So yeah, my name is Hermann Campo, and I'm not seeing my presentation here. Yeah, but here's no that. Yeah, but need to open it first. Ah, sorry. Yeah. So the people ask what I'm doing. So mostly it's difficult to answer. So I work in at Cyber Innovation, and what we do is for many years working in artificial intelligence to help media companies understand using AI, create automation solution. And if I want to describe what I'm doing, I mostly send them some video because I'm a media guy. I love movies, and if you would see my shirt, my arm is full of movie tattoos because I'm fascinated about movies. And this is the best scene, which is putting on point what I am doing.
How do you know this?
That's what I do. I drink.
I can't hear anything. Is it possible to make it a bit louder?
How do you know this?
That's what I do. I drink and I know things.
Very sorry, that's so volume down. So what he's doing is I'm drinking and I know things. So it's like not that I know everything. It's like I'm working already for nearly 10 years in AI, and I was teaching everything by myself. I was moved and kicked into radio stations. We need some automation. Do you know some possibility to help us? And so what I did is I just discovered a lot of things. Many things what you have been using for 20 years in the radio business, I needed to discover it with the radio station. So they told me what they do, and I discovered what how we can implement AI to it. So, and what we're doing at Cyber is AI automation with digitalization and growth marketing. So we implement AI solutions to grow the business, scale it, and automate it. And these are some companies we're working for. We're a smaller company than Bayerischer Rundfunk, so we are very proud to work with such big companies. And one major question is radio. When you want some engagement, what is your problem? So
this is radio, not television.
Yeah, it's radio. So what is radio? You know it. You're working over years on it, and radio is audio. It's engagement. It is discovering new topics, bringing it to the audience of your target audience, and so you need to engage with your audience. For sure, we have on different radio stations the possibility to have a phone, so you can call directly on the phone. Some more advanced companies in the radio field said, well, okay, we are using WhatsApp, so you can send us some WhatsApp message, but it's very, very difficult for the hosts in the station to manage the audios, check in WhatsApp, download the audio, put it into the playout system, organize it, to play it, to have like a conversation. And this makes it a bit difficult for them. And that's why you need to be instant, personalized, interested in informing. So if you're engaging with your audience, it's not just about, say, you can send us some voice message. The user is seeking for engagement with you. You're already working in the radio field, in the media field. So for you, it's just normal to have like a moderator, host talking to you. You're speaking. But for your listeners, or for the most of them, you need just to keep it in mind. For them, most of them, the people are stars. So they are listening to them. They are celebrities. They are fascinated about getting in touch with them. And this is what I found out in my time since 2016, 17, working with radio, is the most are forgetting it, because you're all time around with the people, and this normal is your colleague, and it's nothing special about it to meet him drinking some coffee. But for the listeners and your audience, is completely, this is some engaging thing. If my host is answering to my WhatsApp messages, wow, I got a private message. And it's...
Let's talk about music.
Yeah, let's talk about music. And this is something where every time, if your station wants to engage with the user, and you have, for example, a host a bit new in the field, they bring it on top because they have everything prepared in the music list. Let's talk about music. What's your favorite song? And it's so not personalized to the question, to the engagement with the user. So you need to think about how we can listen to our listeners, how we can interact better, to have a conversation, speak with a moderator, interact with them, some celebrity. For them, it's like said, it's very special. Oh, this clicker, I got it now. I guess sometimes your connection has some issues. It's not that the internet is down or we have some problem. It's kind of weird, like you try to send something out, but it don't reach your listener because they want engagement, and you send them some brand-guided communication ways. Yeah, we at radio station ABC are doing it on this way, and you're responding like typical answers written down. It's not personal for them. It's nothing what they want to have to interact. It's the same game. Like it has changed a lot using social media, where it's more personalized, more interactive.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
Some of you would think that, well, you're working 30 years. I'm since 2016, 17 working in the radio field. What can I tell you about radio or music? You know the business better than me. It's pretty sure. It's just that what I know is that I come from social media, I come from AI, from development, and there are some ways are more interactive, more modern, more digital than it's in the radio field. And the first question I need to ask, do you really understand your audience? Because if you check for your audience, and I ask radio stations if we do consulting, yeah, we are having an audience about 15 to 45 years old. They are about 3,000 to 4,000. They are middle class, and sorry, this is not a real audience targeting how you should work with your target group and your audience. You need to know the difference between people from 15 to 20, how they interact, how they inform themselves, or people from 20 to 25, how they engage with media and digital social media. And this is so different. It's nothing new what I'm telling. So if you work with social media, there's a lot of same thing coming up. And you need to check the demographical, psychographic, geographical, or behavioral, how the audience is interacting and working. And this is what you need to give as paper or as sheet to your host, that they understand better how to engage better. They are doing a good job interacting, promoting, making cool conversations, talking. But if it's on the personal level with the listeners, they can be a bit more engaged. And the question is really, if you're working here and you want to know something about AI, does your team really know about AI? So what I found out is mostly they don't.
You're going for artificial intelligence and you don't want to tell the team.
This is absolutely true. It could be recorded in a radio station because we have bigger radio stations which created, like we have a real task force, AI task force. 3 people, they got taught. They learned so many things about AI, but they won't teach or train the other employees to improve the skills, improve getting better, faster than else. They just have the task force. They're responsible for them, and it's just a thing of these 3 guys. And this is kind of difficult because you're blocking yourself. So how they respond to comments? You need to ask all this question to yourself. If you interact on social media, if you interact with your audience, WhatsApp messages and else, how they interact on social media. Do you use AI? How they write emails? Do they use AI? How they do listener service, answering classical audio and having just a fact sheet with a PDF file where all informations are written down. Do they have an AI bot, or what is the matter? And this is the most important thing. Doesn't matter what you're doing, train your team. Do it internal, get help from other big public publishers like BR, what they said with the network. Very cool idea. And this is, you need to train your team that they get skilled to help getting better content, telling stories which wouldn't be told because we don't have time or you don't have money. And if you think it's about AI, it's...
To quite a bit of prompting, I must say.
Yes, just quite a bit of prompting. It could start already with this. And just prompting a bit, I would suggest if you use ChatGPT, for example, your typical conversation starts like this. If you've never started, you're starting a chatbot. Yeah, hello, how can I help you? Can you please send... Can you please write some text for me? Sure, about what topic should I write? And this is the first steps you get into a chatbot or large language models in all kinds. Then you said, okay, I don't need to say hello and else, so I can write it down. So I clean it up. So it is always the same prompt, but on different knowledge levels. And you start here with this, then you get more deeper into it. You have like a long story. You know about the intentions, the target group, how you improve it. And what we did, we created some simplified prompting structure to reduce all this stuff into the core information. So this long term is the same like this. By just sending the topic key fields, you get the same results from the quality level. We tested it with over 500 prompts and content types we generated, and you can integrate AI to your tools and conversation to engage more.
How can I do that? I can't do that.
Yes, you can do it, and very important. There are many ways, so you don't need me, you don't need some other company especially. There are so many tools in the field you can use. These are just some of them you can use for HeyGen, generating AI avatars, ChatGPT, ChatBase for chatbots, 11 Labs. Just one thing I want to address. Keep in mind that recently, just some weeks ago, they confirmed the European AI Act. So it will be a very game changer into the next 2 years because all companies which are middle level of risk, which are all of them, they need to have transparency on training data of the data set. And this can be that some of this will be blocked in Germany or get fined with some big cost. And this is our voice bot we created for some interactive voice engagement.
There. I'm Big Bro, your friendly radio host AI. I'm here and ready to chat with you.
It's
How
like
are you
the
doing
same
today?
like ChatGPT,
What's
but
on
you
your
can directly
mind?
complete, interact.
Let's have
your
a great
voice.
conversation.
I would like to listen to some music.
Yeah. I need to wrap it down.
That's awesome.
And
I'll be back.
And if you want to see more about it, you can come to our booth. And we have for all of you some gifts, a workbook where is everything written down in 16 pages from a UI Act to apps, tools, and prompting. Thank you. Visit us on our booth.
Thank you so much, Hermann del Campo. Lots of going on in the cyber, and yes, it's pronounced almost like cyber. Our next speaker is Anne Charles. Welcome to the Radiodays AI Summit. She is a founder of Mediabobs, and Mediabobs was founded last year, and this company is working on object-based media. As far as I've understood, this is a new thing, and if you are not familiar with this concept, you will soon, because we have an expert in the room. So please welcome Anne Charles, Mediabobs.
Let's hope the clicker works. Hi, so I'm Anne. I'm a radio and online producer turned broadcast engineer from the UK, which is a slightly unusual combination. And I'm really passionate about object-based media and helping producers to understand technology so that they can use it as part of their creative process. And so the reason that I want to talk a bit about object-based today is that it's the future of our industry, the future of radio, TV, podcasting, film industries. It's not just AI. There are other technologies that all of you need to be aware of. So I'm here to help you get on that journey. So I believe that object-based media is going to be a bigger revolution than the move from analog to digital. So I'm really glad that you're here today, and hopefully you're all going to be part of it. And also, just to say, this is obviously an AI summit. So just to clarify, object-based media is not the same as AI. You can use object-based media without having AI involved, but they can work together. And as with all of these technologies, I believe that the important thing is that humans and human creativity is at the center of all of this. So it's not about the robots taking over. It's about how we can work with technology to enhance our own creativity. So what on earth is object-based media? So it's a way of making programs, producing and consuming content where instead of the program being fixed at the point of production and then sent to our audience, the audience, the playback device actually is compiling the program. And that means that the receiving audience member can have a show that is adapted and is flexible to them. But the crucial thing is that the producers are the ones setting the parameters. So you still are in control as to how flexible your program can be. So hopefully that's a little bit reassuring. So I'm going to use some audio examples because we're all radio and podcast people, but everything I'm talking about applies to TV and video and film as well. So this is how we're making our programs at the moment. So if you imagine that you are in a radio studio or you're making a podcast, right now, if you're in a studio, you're going to have a presenter with a presenter microphone, and you're going to have a guest, and you might have some music, and you might have someone on the phone calling in about something. You're going to have some information about what that person's calling about. You might have some scripts. You might have some research notes. If you are on making a podcast, you're putting stuff into your tracks. You're having some sound effects on all of that. And then at some point, we're going to mix down our show. We're going to fix it. We're either going to send it off as a stereo stream off to our transmitters, or we're going to mix down to probably a mono, let's be honest, MP3. And we're going to throw away loads of the information that we had in our program, loads of the detail about who was calling and what happened. We're all going to throw that in the recycling, because we're in Germany. We're very good at recycling. And then we might add a little bit more metadata, so information about the item. We might add some track information and the title of the show, and then we send our beautiful program out to our audience. But the key thing is we have fixed what is going on. If I want to make a shorter version of the show, or I want to make a trail, I have to mix down another version. In an object-based media world, we can still make the beautiful programs we are already making. It's not about throwing away the good work that we already do. But we still have our program. This is the same program that we already had. It's just better. So now, in these examples, we can still make the show that we're already making. So the top person is still listening with their radio to the show that you've always created. But in an object-based world, if you as a producer have tagged up, put some certain instructions into your show before it gets sent out, and if your receiving device can understand those instructions, the receiving device can start doing some flexible things. So who here has tried to listen to a podcast on the subway or on the train, and you're trying to enjoy the show, and you're just like, it's going so noisily through the station, you're having to hold on to your ears? Yeah. Also, many people in our audience will have hearing loss at some point in their lives. In an object-based world, if I have tagged my show correctly, my receiving device, my audience member, could press a button to say, my environment is too noisy, I can't really hear the show. And then some of the background noise, some of the background audio that you as a producer have decided could be removed or could be reduced can be taken away, and then we can hear the program more easily. And in fact, in the UK, there has been a program, we have a show called Casualty. It's a television show. It's set in an emergency room. And there have been some pilot episodes where you can go online and do exactly that. You can watch the show as normal, or you can press a button and get rid of some of the background noise that isn't necessary to the drama, and you can hear the dialogue more easily. So as I'm talking through some of these examples, I invite you to think about a program that you currently work on or have worked on, and just think, is there maybe one example you could think, that would be really useful on our show, we could do that. Like maybe adjusting the audio volume is something that would be helpful. So another thing that we could do in an object-based media world is to have a flexible program length. So let's say I want to catch up on a soccer match from last night, obviously Norwich City, my local team, but maybe I've only got 15 minutes for my commute or to go to the grocery store. So I can't listen to the 90-minute show. In an object-based media world, if the program had the right information in it before it was sent out, I could say I've got 15 minutes, and a 15-minute highlights version of the show could be built automatically for me. And crucially, as producers, you don't have to make the 90-minute version of the show, the half-hour version of the show, the 2-minute version of the show, because it can all be built on the receiving device. Another option that we can have is to be able to switch the audio version that we're listening to. So perhaps you have a listener who is listening on a really rubbish mono speaker somewhere, and you can send them a mono version of the show. And then maybe they, for Christmas, got some really expensive headphones, and they plug those in, and suddenly you're automatically switched to the beautiful, immersive binaural version of the show that you made. That would be cool, hey? We also have the idea that we could swap chunks of the show, depending on where you are and what's happening. So who here's run a contest on their station or their podcast? I'm sure a lot of you have. Let's say I press play on my show before the 31st of March, and I hear the details of a competition that let me win a wonderful luxury holiday to Munich. That would be great. If I then press play on the show after the 31st of March, that chunk of the show would either not be there, or there would be a section of the show saying, the competition's closed, congratulations to the winner. That can all happen in an object-based world, and some trials are already existing that allow you to do this. And also you've got things like you can change those parameters, time-based, date-based. Maybe you've got some music tracks that aren't allowed to be played in a different territory. So if I'm in Germany, I get the music bed that I can listen to. And if I press play and I'm in India, I have a version of the show that doesn't have the problematic music. Now, if none of this makes sense, I'm going to give you an analogy. It's always nice to, so the multi-track stays the same, sorry. And also to say any of this stuff doesn't have to be on a track basis, it can be on a clip-based basis as well. So you've got lots of flexibility. So another way to think about it is to imagine how we're currently making programs is like you're baking a cake. Everyone loves cake, cake is great. You're already making beautiful radio and podcast shows. But where we put the ingredients together and we put it into the oven, we take it out of the oven, our program is fixed. So if I have made you a very delicious coffee cake and I say, here you are, and you say, oh, I'm so sorry, Anne, I hate coffee, I can't take the coffee out of my cake. It is too late. So in an object-based media world, we're still making beautiful programs, and it's like we're making a cake, we're just making a much better cake, right? So we're still making our show, but we're adding in metadata, so information about the items, telemetry, things like technical instructions like your fader state, whether your fader was open or shut. We're going to transcribe every single track of our show so that we know what's going on. We've got the layers, so we can adjust the volume if we want. We've got the segments, so can a segment stand alone to be a trail? Can we swap the segment out? Can we skip over a segment if we need to? And then we have all the ancillary items, so the research notes and the research that we've done. And we keep all of that together, and suddenly, as a producer, you have a magic cake, so you can take the coffee out if you want, but it still works. And you've got all these building blocks, so you can make your show, but individual parts of your show, if you choose, can go off and have their own adventures without you having to make multiple versions and thousands of different versions of the show. So it's a slightly different way of thinking, but it can be really exciting. I'm going to give you some more ideas. Again, think what might be useful in your own stations. You don't have to use object-based media externally. It could be useful just for helping search your archive. If we've transcribed everything and we suddenly need to search our archive, maybe a politician's died and we need to do an obituary piece very quickly, we can find every time that person's been on air, every person who's spoken about them, and it just helps speed up the reuse of our catalogue. If we go externally, think about things we could do outside our station. I've not got time to talk about, come and talk to me later about the Cheese app, but we can personalize the commercials and the trails, right? So if my phone knows where I am, what time of day it is, whether it's light or dark, if I'm in the supermarket and I'm listening to a podcast, without sending any scary tracking data back to a broadcast, because my phone knows where it is, let's say I'm listening to a commercial and suddenly it's saying, hey Anne, you're in the supermarket, don't forget to buy insert brand of toothpaste today, there's a special offer on. And then in the evening, when I'm listening to a different show, it's saying, hey, Anne, don't forget to clean your teeth with a special brand of toothpaste, because my phone knows where I am. So we can super personalize these things. And like that, I think, is going to be really, really big. When we get the idea of working with objects, so we can make the kind of programs we've already made, and I think that's what most of us will do. But when you start getting creative people like you coming with your ideas and thinking about putting separate parts of the show and how they can work together, you can also start doing really interesting, different things with your shows. So in the BBC, there has been a drama made called the Vostok K Incident. And this is a program you can listen to on your laptop, and it's a really lovely drama. But then you can join in, you can add your phone, you can add a tablet, and suddenly parts of the show start moving around to different devices, and you get extra bits of the plot. And that's because they made it in an object-based way, and they were like, we could do some cool stuff with this. In the Netherlands, the story of the Netherlands allows you to physically go around the country, and when you're at a place of historic interest, you get some audio telling you about the history of where you're standing right now. And in the UK, some students at the University of York created an interactive drama around their campus. So the aliens are invading your campus, and depending on where you go and what you do around the site, depends whether or not the aliens take over or whether you save the world. And that's because they were working in an object-based way. And the really exciting thing for me is when we have these technology and we have creative people in the room, there will be someone in this room who makes something with object-based media that no one's thought of before. And that is the cool thing about getting to grips with new technology, whether it's object-based media or AI. Think about that. You could be the first person in the world to come up with a new way of telling stories. So this is meant to be about AI, so how can we use AI and object-based media together? Well, segments, putting your show into pieces is an important part of the workflow, and so you can use AI to do the segments for you. So Gemma-Lee Ryan from the University of York has been using AI to create segments automatically. She had some humans make some sections of a show. She got AI to create some sections of the show, and then she got the humans to check to see if AI got it right. AI found all the sections the humans would have made. It also found some sections that the humans didn't think of, but when the humans saw them, they were like, yeah, that's great. So this could be a way of saving a bit of time in your production process, and she's got this in a test trial at the moment. I'm sure today we're going to talk a lot about automatic translation and transcription. There are lots of companies that do this. One example of using AI is Eurovox from the European Broadcasting Union. So with your consent, it can train your voice or your image so that if you've done a news report in English and a station in Italy would like it and you can't speak Italian, it will sound as though you are fluent in Italian, which is exciting and scary at the same time. And then metadata, so information about the item, is a really important part of object-based media. But let's be honest, as busy producers, once our program has gone out, We're not going to sit there and start adding extra information to a show file. That's never going to happen. So MetaX is automatically adding metadata to shows, and it's also using AI to get connections between different programs that have been made in different ways. And that means that you can share your programs more easily with another broadcaster, even if they arrange their data in a different way in their organization. So go and have a look at what they're doing. So the problem is, hopefully, some of you might be a bit excited about this, and you're like, maybe I could start making programs like this. And for about the last 10 years, people have been making shows in this way, but it's all been in research and development departments with test and demonstration tools. And if you want to make a program in your real station or your real podcast production company with the everyday tools you have today, unfortunately, it's probably not going to work. So what we need to do is come together, get our software developers, our manufacturers, and our broadcasters, and most importantly, because we're the people that get overlooked all the time in technical discussions, the program teams to come together and solve this problem. Thankfully, I have a plan for this. So I'm doing lots of training of producers to get people used to thinking in an object-based way, and also bringing manufacturers, broadcasters, and producers together so that we can take some of the work that's already happening, and I'm setting up a not-for-profit organization so that we can collectively agree some of these standards and some of these instructions. And I want to be doing this work short, sharp, and quickly, so that by this time next year, certainly by this time in 2026, I want to be able to come back to Radio Days and do a talk featuring lots of programs that you have all made in an object-based way on your stations. So hopefully come and talk to me about how we can make that all happen together. I'm running a networking session here at 4, and I'm here for all of Radio Days. Here are the 3 takeaways you're all meant to have from this talk, apparently. Object-based media and AI are not the same, but they can work together. Start thinking about one thing that you could do on a program that you make right now in an object-based way that would make it better, make your life easier. And please get involved in coordinating all of this stuff so that we can bring it from the research and development world into the real world, and this just be how we make our programs across all media going forward. So this is how to keep in touch. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, and Charles. I was asked to move to the stage because here are also cameras, so hello cameras. Now you see me also. Okay, now it's time for the hottest keynote of the day. I'm very happy to have this guy here today. He's one of the top experts, hottest name in the AI game. And he just arrived from South by Southwest, and that's why his plane was also delayed. So now it's time for the keynote. Please welcome Olle Zachrison, Head of AI from SR.
Hello, and thank you for that kind introduction. It was flattering and nice. Actually, at South by in Austin, there was 1,500 seminars about AI, which tells us a little bit. I do quite a lot of presentations about AI and audio, and people are like, oh, that's a little bit peculiar to focus on the audio. But here I'm in a room of audio geeks, so I feel very welcomed by you all. What I'm going to try to do in this presentation is basically give you a lot of concrete examples of what's happening in the AI audio field. We're going to see some videos. We're going to listen to a lot of audio. We have to talk about ethics. We have done a model to kind of map out different use cases and also to think about the ethical aspects of these different use cases. But I'm going to start with giving you some examples about what we do at Swedish Radio, because we've been in this game for a few years, actually. And now everything is accelerating, of course, with the generative AI models. Yeah. This was a thing that happened a couple of months ago that made me really kind of cough and be not very pleasantly surprised. VG, which is the big tabloid in Norwegian and a digital giant, have started making AI summaries of audio. And actually one of the summaries was this. basically the football player, you know, Erling Haaland, who plays for Man City, he was supposedly shot in a small village in Norway. But of course, the AI model had confused being shot by a gun with being shot by a camera. So it was basically completely false information. And they corrected this in just the space of a couple of minutes. But of course, tens of thousands of people had already seen this piece of kind of false information. And they had to come out with a big apology. This is not where we want to be with AI content. And we're going to come back to that a few times. Going to this model that you can use, it's a very simple model to map out different use cases. At the top there in this quadrant, you see the audience-facing products, and below, stuff that we do internally for newsroom tasks. And to the right, AI-generated content, you know, content generated by these models that can create unique content from prompts. And to the left, more the rule-based models, like having algorithms helping us to do exactly what we tell them to do. And yeah, it's a bit hard to press this one. Yeah, and the VG summaries are, of course, an example of something that is AI-generated and facing the audience. We see now also that so much more kind of AI-faked content is emerging. Maybe a lot of people predict that we're going to be flooded by AI-faked content in the next couple of years. So that's coming also from the outside, and we have to be ready for it as journalists. Yeah. So, as I said, a couple of examples of what we do at Swedish Radio to take AI to help strengthen our audio input. At Swedish Radio, we produce a lot of news. We have 25 different newsrooms around the country. So we produce roughly 350 audio-focused news stories every day. So it's a lot to curate on our website and in our app. And we're taking an editorial algorithm to help us do this better. This is our kind of basic atom for news. All the news actually that we produce in the digital stream are audio clips from maybe 25 seconds to 2 minutes. And we do them in what we call standalone versions. You have to be able to understand the audio without hearing an intro from a studio host or without reading any text. So it's a little podcast, even if it's only 25 seconds long. And we summarize the audio in 3 bullet points and then have a picture and a headline. So this is really a way of working audio-focused in a digital space. We then compile and package these audio clips into playlists in our app. So it's very easy to jump and skip between the clips, and we have different kind of specialized news playlists for example, sports and culture and so on. I'll give you a little demo here of how it looks like. You go into our app, press our main...
Statsminister Ulf Kristersson och Magdalena Andersson höll idag en gemensam pressträff.
Krypterade telefonchattar stod i centrum.
And you can, as you see, you can skip to the next clip, almost like skipping to the next song on Spotify. You can have an overview of the content. You have a local
De 2 Tyresöbröder som nu misstänks för terrorplaner med koppling till IS i Somalia har...
As the Swedish flag was raised at the NATO headquarters in Brussels today, the NATO flag was also raised in ceremonies around Sweden.
Producing content in 12 different languages. We have separate playlists also for the different languages. So, where's the AI? Yeah, this is an example of typical traditional AI that we had seen a couple of years ago. It's basically an editorial algorithm that we help with putting in what we call news values in 3 different dimensions. So general news values, that is the magnitude of the news. SR values are carefully picked out public service values that we think are important to include and to give prominence because it's in line with our public service mission. And the third dimension is lifespan. Is it short, standard, or long? Where short is a traffic accident outside the Messe here in Munich, and long is a really good kind of investigative piece. So the general news categories, just to give you a very brief overview, it's kind of goes from extraordinary to light. Extraordinary, we take that category very rarely. It's like when Prigozhin was killed in Russia, that was an extraordinary story that day. But giving you 5 examples of those SR values, for Swedish Radio, it's so important to be on location with these live backpacks, for example, to talk to people, to see ourselves, to be there as a first-hand witness also, not just to sit behind the desk. Our DG Silla Benke often says, like, get the hell out of the radio house, you know. To include affected voices in our stories, not only to talk to politicians and experts all the time, but to give people agency and to talk to real citizens and listen to their perspectives. New perspectives, typical public service, you can say. It can be the contrarian view or the unexpected perspective, or even something fun. You know, we can be also humorous in news journalism. To provide our own analysis, to put the news content into context and to explain the background and to have really good commentators and experts that can help us do that. And then, as we are an audio-focused company, we want to have really strong and compelling audio storytelling. We're actually now trying out templates for making these news clips, so we knew exactly how the narrative is between the voices and voiceovers in even a 1 minute long clip, where we all know that, for example, the really kick-ass start of the clip is so crucial to get people to listen through to the end. Basically, this is just metadata that we put into our CMS, and that decides where in the news playlist a certain clip is presented at a certain given moment of time. Here we see loads of AI possibilities going forward. I mean, we can make more personalized mixes, we can make better geographic mixes, we can see more opportunities for conversational search using the new generative AI models. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. So, transcription was mentioned here by one of the speakers. And of course, this is actually crucial when it comes to an audio-focused company. So this is an example.
Enligt Ukraina har hundratals begravda kroppar hittats i staden Izium i de östra delarna av landet. Staden var fram till nyligen ockuperad av ryska styrkor men har återtagits av Ukraina. Uppgifterna kommer från Ukrainas president Volodymyr Zelensky.
I don't know if we have, or I know we have some Scandinavian speakers here, and Zelensky, that's a ski resort in Sweden, so it mixed up with Zelensky with Zelensky. And of course, this is what happens before the models then learn to attribute the proper name. This has worked marvels for our internal search because all these news clips and all our podcasts are transcribed, which makes the content, of course, much more searchable. I saw Mathieu from Radio France here, and they have an excellent system also for internal transcription that also kind of extracts the metadata from the audience, from the audio in a really good way. The next step for us is to take this from an internal feature in the newsroom to an external service for the audience. We know that around 1.5 million Swedes have hearing difficulties. So we want to surface a kind of text support for them in our app using the transcription model that we have trained ourselves. So basically, you're going to have a text to support you with the audio. I'm going to show you an example. This is just a prototype, so it's not the definite version.
Boom.
Vibba och ståt, men också sakpolitik. Strax mer om det franska statsbesöket.
Ja, som dominerar Studio 1 denna eftermiddag, Helena Groll och Kajsa Boglind här, där president Macron om en liten stund bara ska tala säkerhetspolitik.
Vi lyssnar och analyserar det där talet efter klockan 17 och sen om korruptionen inom Ukrainas militär.
And of course, the transcription models become much better. A lot of us are now using the Whisper model, and then the transcription also of live audio becomes much better. This is also for us a glimpse of maybe a new way of navigating the audio, because you can press any text chunk here and skip to that in the audio stream. So this is something that we're starting to try out on focus groups, and we have a really good dialogue with the accessibility organizations and organizations for people with different kind of hearing difficulties. Another thing which is very recent and we're experimenting right now is, of course, all our podcasts need text captions, descriptions of what they contain, and good headlines. So now we're trying to customize a GPTS model to help us do that better. So we take the transcription of the podcast and by very meticulous prompting asks it to give us a summary and to give us a captivating headline. So this is the original version from our kind of security policy podcast, Gräns, or the border. And here is the Hugging Face version that we prompted and then made a description, which is pretty good. And here is also the ChatGPTS version. I mean, for the editors who are great audio makers, but not always the best kind of headline crafters, this is a really good support for them to have these models. And I mean, we did this in the first version in 1 hour's time. The interesting thing is when you prompt these models, now I'm going a little bit geeky, is that you can put pretty short prompts, but then in the next step, the model will craft its own more in-depth prompts that you can also have a read through and correct. And from those prompts, it will kind of instruct the model to do these podcast captions. Yeah. So going back to the model, I can just map out these examples then. The transcription to the audience is, of course, an audience-facing product. It's a rule-based model. It should transcribe only the words that are in the audio, of course, even if it contains some errors. The transcription that we use for the internal searchability in our system is, of course, a rule-based model, but a newsroom task. And this GPTS, that is more kind of AI-generated content, of course, and we have to check it every time, and correct it. But that is going more towards both the audience potentially. We haven't started with that yet, but in the first step, it's a newsroom task that we use it for. The car is crucial for audio, and we're going to talk about it here at Radiodays. We have done a little bit, a small 3-minute long video that I want to show you, explaining how Swedish radio is now taking the in-car experience to the next step, also with some AI features that come into this service.
The most important place for radio is in the car. On an average day, half of those who listen to radio in Sweden do so in the car. Drivers need audio updates. And if we lose the audience in the car, radio is in serious trouble. When people drive to work in the morning, they want to connect to society, be part of what's happening, what's going on in the news, how's my local team doing, and perhaps the most important, how's the traffic? But did you know that the typical drive in the morning is actually quite short? Only 15 to 20 minutes. So in a very short time, people need to get updated with the latest traffic, news and sports. And here's the challenge. Swedish radio research shows that people often get frustrated when missing out on the relevant updates they need to start their day. They either miss the start of the news or they don't have the chance to listen through to the end. And here's the opportunity. Swedish Radio is now taking the in-car audio experience to the next level with our new CarPlay app. Our aim is to solve the problem of combining short trips with a full updating overview from trusted public service journalists. In-car simplicity is everything. So by the click of a button or by a voice through Siri, users now get a more personalized and geographically relevant mix. We call it Get Updated. Let's see how it works for a commuter. The first thing that meets the listener when pushing the button is a localized traffic update from one of Swedish Radio's experienced traffic reporters. The user can then skip to a national news update, followed by a quick roundup of the most important local news stories. After the latest sports headlines, the listener is seamlessly carried over to the live linear channel they prefer. This combination of personalized, on-demand content, both national and local, is a unique advantage for Swedish Radio and is offered in 26 regional varieties. Another perk is that Swedish Radio is now re-engaging music lovers. From the linear live stream, you can press the music button and see all the songs that your radio show has been playing. And of course, you can go back to hear your favourite song again or catch up with the one you missed. For longer drives, the new app makes it easier to access and navigate all Swedish Radio content by individual choice. Besides news and traffic, podcasts are presented on a special tab, starting with Sweden's biggest podcast, P3 Documentary. The listeners are also served personal podcast tips based on recommendations from the AI model Peach, which we've built together with EBU colleagues. The car is designed to take you exactly where you want to go. Now Swedish Radio is helping you to get there and to maximize the listening value of your everyday journey.
Yeah, so I think that illustrates a little bit what we were trying to do in the car. And of course, a really big and important thing here is that we collaborate in the audio radio business. So for example, my colleague Thomas Granryd, who's going to come here, he and other EBU colleagues have done a playbook for how we envision audio in the car. And that is used also in the dialogue now with car companies. And we're really happy to be, in our case, to be in partnership with the EBU to do that technically. We are a member of this AI recommendation engine that we call Peach, which is also great for many other things like real-time data analysis. And for example, BR, who's also present here with Uli, we are in this news exchange cooperation that we call a European perspective, where we use AI translation and transcription also to switch news between us and actually surface news from one company to the other company using AI translation in a safe way. So this is an example of how that looks. This is a Swedish Radio story about like the record number of military conscription last year. And this is how it looked on France Info, which is the really big news website, of course, in France. So I'm going to go to that.
Et dans les prochaines semaines, les citoyens suédois qui auront 18 ans cette année recevront dans leur boîte aux lettres une lettre sur les étapes de leur enrôlement dans l'armée, dans le cadre du service militaire obligatoire. La conscription a été réintroduite en Suède il y a quelques années, et un nombre record de jeunes gens depuis vont être convoqués au printemps dans le cadre du processus de sélection de l'enrôlement. Parmi ceux qui vont recevoir une lettre, il y a Eric Tarodi, qui habite à Karlstad. Il évoque la perspective du service militaire. Il explique que ce n'est pas quelque chose qu'il attend avec impatience ou qu'il désire ardemment.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great media experience, but you can understand it. And in this case, we have a rule here in a European perspective that you always have to check and correct the transcription into English. And then the other companies have the right to translate that using AI to, for example, French in this case. And the same story appeared in German also on the BR24 website. And the point here is not that this is kind of the end product. I mean, this is just the start. We have 45,000 journalists working for the EBU in Europe. We have a combined news budget, and except for like take Eurovision apart, like with 7 billion euros a year. So of course it makes a lot of sense for us to cooperate when building these AI systems. Yeah, one really heartwarming and important thing is that the Ukrainians, Suspilne, the public service company from Ukraine, recently came into this news exchange also. And here you can see, for example, 2 stories that our Ukrainian little section at Swedish Radio did, and which is now surfaced also to on this Ukrainian website. So, what's going on in this project? Well, I mean, the main asset here is our database. We have a database with news coming in from like around 30 broadcasters and media companies from all over Europe. So in this database, we have 2.4 million articles from all of Europe. Trusted journalism. And now we're trying out what we call like a conversational chatbot in there, called nicknamed Neo. And you can ask Neo any news-related question, and it will dig out articles and summarize them and show them to you. So I'm going to show you how it works.
Biden is on the run from his record and lying like crazy.
So you go into Neo. And I put the question to Neo here. Why did Sweden become a member of NATO? It picks up then 10 articles about this, and it gives us a little summary of that. I can go to the original articles if I want, or just kind of scroll through. And then I choose this one from ZDF in Germany.
Yep. For centuries, Sweden's cannons were only aimed at the Baltic Sea as a deterrent. As a neutral country, it was possible to stay out of Europe's wars. But with Putin's attack on Ukraine, it was suddenly 5-12 for the Scandinavian sense of security. The government knocked on NATO's door, and now they are allowed to join.
I think this gave an excellent background also to why Sweden did join NATO. It did so in German. My German is a bit rusty, so I could understand the ZDF story much better. We're going to see much more of this kind of conversational voice services. I'm going to show you another example from some of the big tech giants in a moment. But I mean, this is happening, and we have to be in this race as public service media broadcasters. Think about like when we integrate this in the car. You're just going to be able to talk out in the air in the car and said, hey, what happened in Munich with the terrorist threat last week? And it's going to pick up news information, maybe give us a summary, and maybe asking us, do you want to hear the original story from BR or something like that, you know? So, I mean, this is not the future. This is here and now, and I think it's better if we try to do it together. So, I promised you even more concrete use cases, actually from all parts of Europe and the world. And we're going to talk about like a local news bot that Wiley in Finland is going to start using. Live transcripts, and also look at what some of the commercial competitors are doing. I mean, we have some commercial companies here in the room, of course, but competitors and colleagues for us. So, automated weather reports. I had an example from RBB in Germany already last year when I did the presentation here. BBC is now offering automated weather reports with very localized forecasts, 4 times a day, every day. And so the signed-in users now of of the Play BBC News, smart speaker service for Alexa can also access these weather updates. And I'll give you an example here from a London postcode.
Here's the BBC weather forecast for W1A. In the afternoon, it will be rather cloudy with longer spells of showery rain look to drift in from the southwest, these locally heavy, some with thunder. Today we'll see a high of 12 degrees Celsius, a low of 7, and there is a chance of rain too, so maybe take an umbrella with you. Here's what you can...
Yeah, I mean, this is a cloned voice, a synthetic voice, and I mean, they start to sound so good, you know. Very good service, also a very good example of that it's better sometimes with AI to add new services that you can't do manually than to start with replacing existing services. Because, I mean, people in the newsroom or in the organization are not so inspired when you start replacing stuff straight away, but rather if you can add on services for your audience, I think it's a better kind of entry point for using more AI automated products in your company. Okay, next example. This is the synthetic voice done by the Swedish section of Wiley. They have pretty limited resources there in the Swedish section of Wiley. So, for example, the newsroom is not staffed in the night. So now they do a test with adding separate new news bulletins, for example, at 11 o'clock in the night, where they don't have a person present, and it will basically extract the news content from the published headlines on the news website. In Wiley, who is a very progressive company when it comes to AI, so please be inspired by them. They already have a synthetic voice that allows you in Finnish to kind of read up articles. So this is how the test from Swedish section in Wiley sounds.
Den nya färjan Aurora Boat 9 fastnade i isen på grund av extrem ispress i Kvarken. Svårigheterna uppstod när kraftiga sydliga vindar pressade isen i höga vallar.
This is beautiful Swedish, I think, with this accent. Cloned voices, I mean, are used in so many newspapers around the world to read up articles. Of course, the audience nowadays expect to be able to access content in different kind of modalities and different varieties. So several of the Scandinavian papers, starting with Aftenposten in Norway and now Svenska Dagbladet, which is my old paper where I used to work, they have cloned voices from their staff members to basically give an add-on service. You can press play if you're a subscriber in the app and you can listen to that article. This is an old friend of mine, Eva, and they have cloned her voice here.
På söndags eftermiddagen hade dödstalet stigit till 25 människor och 72 personer rapporteras vara skadade.
And I know her, so I know that it's a very good sounding natural voice. Here are so many ethical dilemmas here. What about transparency? How do we explain to the audience that this is a synthetic voice so people don't feel manipulated or duped? What are the legal contracts that we as a media company sign with these staff members? In Aftenposten's case, they have to quit with that cloned voice if that staff member leaves the company. What happens if she dies? Yeah, you have to have legal kind of clauses for all of the stuff like that. What articles should you use it for? Should you use it from articles that express a political opinion on the editorial page? At Aftenposten, yeah, they use that voice for that, but they're not using the voice for obituaries from people who have died. 4 people who have died, yeah. We mentioned commercial radio stations, and of course it's never been easier to kind of create automated radio spots, commercial spots. This was a prompt that I did just with a couple of minutes. We did it last year here, actually, also with Raoul Wedel from Adtos on stage. We prompted the system just with saying, hey, What if IKEA, the furnishing giant from Sweden, is relaunching its bookshelf Billy because it celebrates 50 years or something? This was just something that we made up, and in the matter of 3 minutes, the system could craft this spot.
Attention, all furniture shoppers.
IKEA is celebrating the 50th anniversary of one of our most popular pieces, Billy, the bookshelf.
Not only is it beautifully designed, but practical and affordable as well.
So come down to Dibblesbro, Copenhagen, or visit us online at ikea.com and check out this incredible deal for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm not the owner of a production company that does radio spots, you know, because I mean, with a system like this, you can more kind of personalize the ads or make them change them much quicker if you change the price or whatever. So this is a really big revolution in this field. This is another service from Hacker News, which is a social news website about computer science and different tech things. And they actually compile a podcast from the news headlines that they have on their website.
Welcome to the Hacker News Recap, where we bring you an exclusive overview of the top 10 posts on Hacker News every day. Today's episode unpacks the tumultuous lawsuit Elon Musk has filed against OpenAI, delves into Apple's U-turn on the fate of progressive web apps in the EU, and reveals the shocking double life of Wirecard's COO as a Russian spy. All right, let's get to it.
Are we ready for this as a radio industry? That so many new competitors can just start creating almost like podcasts and even radio stations. We heard from Radio GPT here last year. I mean, we have to look at this carefully, and of course we have to ask ourselves the question, should we use any of these techniques and synthetic voices? I talked about AI summaries. A lot of the Scandinavian papers are doing them, and they always manually check the summaries, but sometimes it goes wrong, as I showed you in the beginning. VRT is another public service company from Belgium. They have a really cool event that they call the Warmest Week, a charity event, massive in Belgium, recorded in front of a live audience. And they have a goal there that this should be 100% accessible to all people in Belgium. And they used live transcription to kind of subtitle that using the mentioned Eurovox model from the EBU. Very positive feedback for that. So looking on what the big commercial tech giants are doing, Spotify are now introducing more automated translation, but also with lip sync. So for example, this interview with Jeff Bezos was translated into Spanish, and you're going to hear Jeff talking Spanish here.
La versión original de este episodio fue grabada en inglés. Las traducciones de voz se generan de forma artificial.
La siguiente es una conversación con Jeff Bezos, fundador de Amazon y Blue Origin. Esta es la primera vez que mantiene una conversación de este tipo y de esta duración, y según me dijo, sentí fácilmente que podríamos haber hablado durante muchas más horas, y estoy seguro de que lo haremos.
Y todo tipo de atención médica que salva vidas, etcétera, etcétera. Y hay una cosa que está retrocediendo y es el mundo natural.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. My colleague Thomas, who is here, he asked the ChatGPT voice bot that you can have now if you're a paying subscriber. He asked it to summarize a little bit what's going on in the AI audio industry.
Hi, ChatGPT. This is Thomas. My colleague Olle Zachrison, he will be doing a presentation and he will be talking about how AI will change the audio industry. Could you give me like a short summary in 3 bullet points around this area in English?
So it thinks
Hello,
a little
Thomas.
bit.
Here's a succinct summary on the transformative role of AI in the audio industry. 1.
revolutionizing sound production. AI's capability to enhance audio quality, generate new compositions, and restore aged recordings introduces groundbreaking advancements in sound design.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let it talk you through all the bullet points, but they were really good, I can tell you, even if it's completely automatically generated content, of course. Amazon are now about to launch the next generation of voice services that sound much better and are made conversational with generative AI.
What's on your mind?
How did my soccer team do yesterday?
Yesterday, OL Reign won 1-0 against the Portland Thorns.
Can you give me a recap?
Your team was steady all through the first half, with a strong defense and 52% ball possession. Things got heated during the second half with a foul that earned the Portland Thorns a yellow card. OL Reign scored the first goal in the 55th minute.
Yes! Let's celebrate. What's a new pop dance song?
Hot to Go by Chappell Roan is popular.
Cool. Play it.
Sure.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, very American. You get it. There's a lot of fun stuff going on, like Wiley's did a whole kind of podcast episode using generative AI.
No totta kai se on mahdollista. Ei
They
tarvitse aina vetää sitä
didn't think that
suklaapatunkkaa tai
this was great,
karkkipussia
but at
naamariin.
least they're trying.
Joo, on kuullut, että nykyään on paljon terveellisiä välipalavaihtoehtoja, kuten hedelmiä ja
feedback they
pähkinöitä.
got from the audience was like, please give our normal presenters back. So not everything works. There's fun stuff like voice clone of David Attenborough, all of a sudden talking Swedish.
Ikväll föreslår jag att du lagar följande rätt till middag. Surdegsmacka med grillad paprika och pocherat ägg. Gör så här. Skala all lök, dela på mitten och skiva i tunna halvmånar. Salta.
So that's the fun stuff, right? But there's also this that I said in the beginning, an emergence of a lot more faked content also in the audio space. Maybe you saw this clip or heard this clip with the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan.
I control the Met Police. They will do as the Mayor of London tells them and obey orders.
It was deliberately made to give the impression that I'd said what I hadn't said, but it looked and sounded so authentic. You know, we did get concerned very quickly about what impression it may create.
Yeah, and we all know that we have a record number of elections this year. So of course, this is something that we have to be prepared for in the newsroom. There are new services. I'm going to have Anna from Prisa Audio tomorrow. They have actually done a new tool that can help you to detect fake audio. This are a lot of stuff going
on like this. La respuesta de la funcionaria desató una polémica y ha causado indignación en las redes sociales.
Basically, this was the clone version of that voice. Yeah, I'm going to jump. So this is a new detection tool that you can hear more about in the afternoon session tomorrow. You know that there's so many initiatives, as I said. You know, BBC Verify, SVT, our sister company in Sweden, has a verified service. There are new standards emerging for also how you can kind of mark and water stamp content to know the original source of the content. Lastly, I'm going to go back to our model here. When it comes to the BBC automated weather service, of course, it's an audio-facing product, very much based on rules. I mean, it just reads the text that you put into the machine. The summaries that are made now from a lot of media companies, it's more of a newsroom task. You check them and then you publish them to the audience. So it's a kind of hybrid case there. If you ask ChatGPT in audio or in text just for a summary or whatever, everybody knows that this is just generated content based on the training data. So it's something that you do maybe as a research thing, but you have to be careful. And this hacker news recap, that was an example of purely AI-generated content based on a text database, but generated and automatically served to the audience. And of course, the Sadiq Khan deepfake here was coming in from the right there as an example of fake audio. Just a couple of ethical security reminders to finish off with here. Here is, of course, that you need transparency. if you have a cloned voice, you have to explain that to the audience. If you're doing AI summaries, of course, I think you should be transparent around that. Actually, in Sweden now, we just announced the other day that the whole of the Swedish media industry, 13 leading companies, have come together to make 7 recommendations for AI transparency. So we say, for example, that when AI has played a significant role for the journalistic content, we should mark it, and we're now also harmonizing the language in which we express this transparency. Here we know that all of the content that we enable with AI in the newsroom tasks, we have to have a human in the loop, of course, if we publish it. Here we all know of the serious risk of factual errors. That's why we don't also want to give away our content and let the tech giants scrape it, because we know that they attribute a lot of wrong information to us. And finally, I mean, this is the real editorial danger zone up here. We're not treading into this territory as Swedish Radio, and for serious media companies, you have to be really thoughtful before you go there, I think. So, I think my time is up. Thank you for the attention, and have a good lunch.
Thank you so much, Olle. And as a reminder, I should say that tomorrow at 5 o'clock you will be doing next session here in Radiodays Europe. Now we have a 15-minute break, and please come back at 2 o'clock. We have 6 more great speakers then, so see you soon.